Super excited to be here and talk to you all about why JavaScript is an awesome language for doing data analysis. And the reason that that is connected to the theme of our conference, Node, is that Node is largely responsible for the transition of JavaScript being a language that would have been totally ridiculous for doing data analysis into potentially a viable choice. So, towards the goal of convincing you all, I have three basic pieces. First, to talk a little bit about the history of why JavaScript isn't really considered a mainstream data analysis language. Next, talk about some reasons that that shouldn't be the case. And three, do a demo. So first bit. All right, cool. So a brief and thoroughly incomplete history of data science. Towards the beginning, we have S, MATLAB, Octave, R, a lot of very statistical computing targeted languages. And so they're really great if you want to do nothing but statistical computing, but if you're a real programmer, not a statistician, or want to integrate this stuff into real applications, these languages are not fantastic. In the later 1990s, CRAN happens, the open source package manager for R, and R sort of takes off as the sort of de facto data analysis language, which, as I said, it's a great tool for a lot of things, but programmers generally find it frustrating. And so we've entered, at this point, sort of a period of searching for the not R alternative. Then, in the early 2000s, I couldn't nail down an exact date for PyPy. I looked around for a really unreasonably long time. But around 2003, PyPy happens. And shortly thereafter, we get NumPy, scikit-learn, and Pandas, which sort of form the foundation for Python taking over as the new sort of primary data analysis language. And PyPy is really significant in that it sort of provides a central hub for open source contribution to that community. Now, the reason that JavaScript can't be considered a reasonable contender in this period is data analysis requires a lot of things like being able to read data. And JavaScript doesn't really have file I/O at this point. And so it's not really until Node happens that JavaScript can sort of start to build a foundation to become a reasonable platform for doing open source data analysis development. So we eventually get Node. Shortly thereafter, NPM. This is really sensitive. And then in 2011, also D3.js, which combines, or which adds on top of the sort of great open source infrastructure that NPM provides, also really great data-oriented visualization tools. So this has basically been reasons that people don't use JavaScript to date, but I'd like to transition to some reasons that you should. Right, that's. So I guess I'll start from the bottom here. So as I mentioned, Node is an enormous piece of why JavaScript is sort of becoming a more viable choice for data analysis. Being able to actually do file I/O to read data and output results. Speed, Node is written in C++, it's pretty fast. And NPM is sort of the foundation for a really large and vibrant open source community in JavaScript. And so that sort of has two pieces. One is that the JavaScript community is really, really huge, but also that there's an ease of contribution that isn't necessarily there with other languages and frameworks. Particularly if you've tried contributing to CRAN, it's you can do it, but it's not nearly as fun a process as, authoring an NPM package. The second piece, which I also sort of touched on, is app integration. So standalone data analysis is good in a lot of circumstances, but frequently it's useful to be able to actually do data analysis and have that be integrated as part of an app. And so it's hard to do better than JavaScript as far as the wide range of applications that you can integrate that language into. So front-end web, obviously, back-end web with Node, mobile applications with Ionic, and desktop applications with Node.js, formerly Node WebKit, maybe again. And then also the third major piece would be visualization tools. So obviously the big ones, D3, and there's a seemingly endless list of wrappers on D3 that do sort of more targeted charting. But then there's also a lot of like really exciting not D3 options like Chart.js and 3JS for doing 3D visualizations, Viz, ton of others. Now that you are all convinced that JavaScript is an awesome choice to be doing your data analysis, I will launch into doing a short demo. So what I have here is basically a list of languages that we're going to look over and a locally required version of NPM module called DataKit. And what we're going to do is take a look at the results from this year's Stack Overflow developer survey. So every year, Stack Overflow does a survey of developers where they ask people about languages and tools that they're using. And for the first time this year, they also included fields to ask people about languages and frameworks that they're interested in using. And so, possibly of interest to developers in the audience, we're going to build a predictive model which uses the self-reported would-be user base of each language, the people that want to use that language, in order to predict the base of people that will eventually use the language and thereby predict growth for each of these languages. We're gonna read in the profiles from the developer survey, which are just in profiles.csv. And then we're going to get the first the seekers of each language. So we're going to say for each of the lang strings, we map it to a number of users. And so we'll take the profiles and filter on whether or not they report that they want to use that language in the future. So the field for that is future lang and tech, and then the name of the language. And that'll either be empty string if they haven't reported interest in using it, or the name of the language if they have. And so then, if we take for that list of profiles the length of the array, then we then get for each language an array of the number of self-reported people interested in using the language. I assume at some point people have become horrified about the O of n squared implementation of that. Given that we're only going to run this once, I am erring on the side of readability rather than performance, but it's definitely not great. And speaking of excellent software practices, gonna go ahead and copy paste this. In order to get the current users of each language. Cool. And so now we have arrays for each language, the number of people that have self-reported both current use and interest in using the language. So now we build a regression model of one against the other. And so we say for regression, and that'll just be seekers and users. And with that, we are ready to make a pretty chart. So, and so here we pass some configuration for the chart. So I'll just say let's call that language seekers, and call that language users. All right. All right, cool. So now that we have a configured chart, we can add some data sets to it. So for our first data set, we'll add the regression line. So we'll say our x points, we're just going to have 2 points. Regression endpoints x1, x2. And the same thing for our y values. And then we'll just indicate the type, line chart. Now, add our actual data. So we want to show the x values will be the seekers of each language. Y would be the users of each language. Is this getting too low on the screen? Cool. And labels that we're going to add will be the lang strings, so we can actually see each language on the chart. Cool. And then we render it. And if all goes well, so it takes a while because, 30,000 rows and I did the n squared thing. Oh no. Oh, okay. Cool. That's fine. Jesus. Again. Yeah. Killing me. All right, cool. So now we have our chart with, let me downsize this a bit. Am I good? Cool. So our line up the middle is the predicted line, which you could sort of reasonably interpret as the equilibrium number of users given a demand for a particular language. And so you can interpret that the languages above the line have predicted loss in user base, while the languages and frameworks below have predicted gains. So highlight for people here, this being a Node conference, you are all in the right camp. Node is right there. And so being fairly far below the line has large predicted growth as a function of the people that are seeking to use the language. And so there are sort of a number of results here that you would sort of expect. So people hate SQL, people hate PHP, people hate Visual Basic, And so these things will die over time, and you can feel reasonably comfortable that those assumptions are true. Whereas JavaScript frameworks, Angular and Node are doing really well. Haskell has large predicted growth. Notably, JavaScript is sort of predicted to take a dive, although still be really huge. And I think that in conjunction with the fact that Angular and Node have large predicted gains could optimistically be interpreted as like the JavaScript ecosystem becoming more mature and moving away from like native JavaScript and into sort of large, well-maintained open source projects. So if anybody has interest in sort of looking at these results, playing around with it, I wrote up a short blog post, which I'm just going to pop on Hacker News right now. What? Oh my God, this is a disaster. Okay, well, you can find it on my blog, which is just Epstein, like .in. And yeah, it's right there at the top. So if you have interest, it's there. And otherwise, yeah. Thank you for taking the time to listen, and yeah, thanks.
Sorry. Hello. How are you doing?
I am great.
Okay, great. Let's see. Thank you so much. That was wonderful. One more time, round of applause. Okay, some quick questions. If you could invite anyone over for dinner, who would it be?
I live with my girlfriend in New York. I'd
Okay.
have dinner with her.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, if your life were a song, what title would it have?
Eye of the Tiger.
Yeah, it matches your glasses. Last gift you gave someone?
A necklace, gold necklace with opal stones. If you think they don't match, yeah.
What carat? 18 karat?
I want to say yes.
Okay, I hope so. Weirdest word in the English language?
Uh,
Opal.
Opal, sure.
No. All right, thank you so much.